Hey everyone, welcome to our Asset Management Friday segment of the Passive Income Through Multifamily Real Estate podcast. I'm your co-host Kyle Mitchell, also joined by Gary Lipsky. This segment is focused on educating operators, building better systems, and becoming a best-in-class operator. Since we're also live on Facebook right now, make sure to type any questions you have in the comment section below. Also be sure to check out our Facebook group, Passive Income Through Multifamily Real Estate. All right, today on the show we have Devin Elder. Devin, how's it going?
Great. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, doing well. Great to have you on. If you can start by telling the listeners a little bit about yourself and what you currently do.
Yeah, so I grew up in San Antonio. This is where we operate. We're a vertically integrated multifamily operator. I'm in about 2,000 doors as a principal and operate a lot of those. Our management company runs a number of those assets, and we are focused almost exclusively in San Antonio. So we like buying 70s and 80s vintage stuff for the most part, where there's kind of value add component, and running them for a few years.
Well, awesome. Let's talk about business execution. What are some of your most frequent? What's your most frequent business plan you follow for your apartment purchases?
Most of them fit within a pretty familiar box, and that is, hey, look, we're looking for some kind of an interior renovation where the 20% as a floor, but I want a minimum of 20%, preferably 30% or better ROI on our money spent on the interiors. As you guys know, we're going to have some exterior CapEx dollars. We got to do it. We might have to put up a new monument sign or solar screens or the roof or whatever, which will help, but we like to see, and everybody likes to see it, investors, lenders, we like to see it. What's the ROI on the dollars we're going to spend on the interior? If we spend $4,000 on an interior of a unit, can we get 20% or better ROI on that? So hopefully much better than that, but we're looking for a substantial component of units that haven't been renovated that we can go in, update, and see a ROI 20% or better on an annualized basis.
Nice. What are some of your biggest obstacles you face when executing your business plan?
I think it's just it's people, right? Real estate is easy. People are hard. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard this happen, but a contractor not doing what they said they were going to do. I mean, believe it or not, that's actually happened to me in my career. The capital side of it's kind of relatively easier. Investors, you're dealing with relatively sophisticated folks, like that part's kind of streamlined. But when it comes down to the staff on site, sometimes there's tenant issues, believe it or not. So it's just people, right? It can be kind of people intensive. So I think those are some of the challenges we face. And then there's just a lot of moving parts. If you're renovating a 200 unit apartment complex, especially if it's got a big value add component, or, we've bought properties that were at 50% occupancy and take them down to zero. And when you do that, they're not at 50% occupancy because they're in great shape. They're at 50% occupancy because they're a complete disaster in every imaginable form, whether it's crime or, you name it. So just kind of cleaning that stuff up. That's the opportunity though, right? A few years ago, a switch flipped in my brain where I started looking at beat up old houses and I would get excited, right? After I started investing in real estate, I wouldn't look at them as eyesores. I'd look at them as opportunities. Now I feel the same way about multifamily. You see a beat up apartment complex and go, man, I bet that's a California owner that has a loan maturity coming up, right? So that's how we look at it. That creates the opportunity.
Nice. Yeah, I think I've been in a business mastermind group before, 16 people from all different industries, and always it came down to people. So I totally hear you. How has your strategy changed over the years? You've done 2,000 units, so that's a lot. So I'm curious if it's changed.
We have, for the most part, stayed in kind of this box of like 100 to 300 unit B and C multifamily in my backyard. I want to be able to get to it in a few minutes if I need to, or I want to. We've deviated a little bit. We've done some development stuff. We've done some land stuff. We've done lots of single family rentals, short-term rentals. There's all these kind of peripheral things that we're involved in. The lion's share of it really hasn't evolved. It's workforce housing with a rent in the $1 to $1.30 a square foot range. And, our thesis, and a lot of people's thesis, is there's going to be a huge contingent of customers forever. in that range. And so we haven't really deviated from it. It's been harder to find, well, it's always been hard to find deals as long as we've been doing this. I think, you just have to get creative on financing, get creative on terms with sellers and stuff like that. And that's also kind of the fun of the day-to-day is that nothing's ever just teed up for us. It's like, there's always some sort of a creativity that you have to employ. That's been my experience. And that kind of keeps it fun.
Right. Have you had besides COVID, one of your other projects you've had to like pivot because of the plan wasn't taking or for whatever reason?
We've done stuff. I would say not a major pivot. I think that what we've gone in and done was generally what we set out to do for the most part. Not to say we haven't had challenges. If you got property with low occupancy, you're just going to have to bring a ton of cash to the table and kind of ride it out. And it's scary taking the plane to a nosedive and then getting real close and then pulling it back up. And once you're at 95%, you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad, but it's kind of scary in the interim. So we've always planned that, we've run pro formas with 50%, economic vacancy year one, just because that's the shape it was in. So that stuff is a lot of work and it's scary, but it's also like, that's what we meant to do going in. So we've had minor pivots on, let's say interior, like, oh, hey, people are willing to pay for a backsplash that we didn't budget for, but the ROI is 100% or 200% in a year. And sure, we're going to make that tweak. That stuff's relatively minor. Overall business plan, historically, we've kind of always done what we set out to do.
And do you buy in bulk because of you're turning a lot of units? You're centrally located. Is that something that you've done in the past, or not really?
We haven't. I got a buddy that started a materials company and sold it and did real well, and they had good margins and stuff. They were doing like 500 unit type deals, so it made sense. We've looked at it. I just not to date, right? And also because even if we're renovating a lot of units, a lot of times we're not renovating 100 at a time. We might be able to do 5 or 6 a month. Right. And trust me, I love starting companies. I told myself, no, I'm not going to start any new companies in 2020 unless it was a new entity to buy a property, because we got a property management company. We got all these different things going. I'd like to start a materials business, but we have not to date.
And what are some of the tools that you use to help execute your business plan?
Yeah, I'm real big on automation and software. So it's, we kind of have 2 divisions of our company. One is what I would call the capital division. And then we've got our property management division. And so there's kind of different software sets for each of those. But I'm a big fan, let's just say in our capital company division of task automation in our CRM. Right. So we know we're doing a lot of things repeatedly and certain things happen, whether that's an acquisition process or capital raise process or podcast production schedule, whatever it is. And really, big complex things can be broken down into, I'm a huge fan of trying to build a McDonald's type system, right? Where it's just obsessive about a system. And so creating things like recurring tasks that, we finish X and then an activity set goes out and there's 15 tasks on it assigned to 5 different team members, but it's all going out in an automated fashion. And so creating some of the workflow automation on the CRM side has been great, and I'm really more on the equity side, right? We have a property management company, but we have a VP of ops that runs that. So I'm not as much on the day-to-day. On the equity side, that's kind of where I spend a large majority of my time, but things like an investor portal where, we just finished a capital raise, and everybody could sign digitally. Wiring instructions are there. We can track stuff. We get bank notifications when wires come in, and we can let investors know. And it's probably going to be 50 investors on that deal, and a lot of it's automated, which is a huge help. So software automation definitely number 1 for me.
That's great advice. If you could tell your younger self, besides the automation, 2 of the greatest lessons you've learned through your business plan execution, what would it be?
So my audio went out there a sec. Can you guys hear me? Give me a little audio.
Yep.
Okay. There it is. Okay. I just got you guys back. Maybe rephrase the question, maybe a shorter version. Sorry, I missed all that.
Yeah, no worries. So
it.
if you could tell your younger self 2 of the greatest lessons you've learned regarding your business execution, what would they be?
Yeah, I mean, the big one is just don't be, we're on a live here, so I'll be polite, but don't be such a fraidy cat or synonym for scaredy cat, right? Some other synonym for cat. I don't know what it might be. Don't be such a fraidy cat, right? Because really, like all the stuff we're scared of, we're scared of the unknown, right? And it looks scary at night when you can't see anything, and then in the morning, it's silly that you were scared of it. So you have to get to the other side of that fear. Gary Keller writes in one of his books, "Everything we want's on the other side of fear." So I think that's kind of any business or anything you set out in life. You have to conquer your fear by getting to the other side of it. So and I still do this, do things I'm scared of quicker, so that you can get to the other side of it. Because when you get to the other side of it, that's when the confidence comes, but it only comes once you get to the other side. And then with confidence, boy, you can really go do big things. So that would be it.
Yeah, that's great advice. I'm going to pass it over to Kyle to wrap it up.
All right, Devin, we ask every guest this final question. What is your asset management superpower?
Systems.
All right. Yep. Couldn't agree anymore. All right. Well, great. Devin, thanks for coming on the show and talking to us about business execution. Please tell listeners where they can find out more about you.
Best place is our main website, and that's djetexas.com.
Perfect. All right. To everyone listening out there, thanks for coming on. And if you like this episode, please head over to iTunes and Stitcher, give us a rating, subscribe, and review to help us grow. And we'll talk to everyone next week. Hey, everyone. Thanks again for tuning in. We really appreciate your support. If you're interested in learning more about APT Capital Group and speaking to someone on our team, click on the link and schedule a call with us. We're here to help, and we'd be excited to speak with you and get to know more about you and your goals. Talk to you soon.